All right, so happy Wednesday, everyone. I'm so used to saying Saturday. For like 4 years, we were like happy Saturday, happy Saturday. And so we switched to Wednesdays. And so sometimes if I say Saturday, please disregard. It's just a force of habit. Happy Wednesday, everyone. Welcome back to Caribbean Diaspora Vibes. We are midway through the month of September. And this month we're celebrating or bringing awareness to different awarenesses, such as this week we'll be focusing on sickle cell awareness. We're waiting for a few people to jump on. In the meantime, let me introduce myself. My name is Donna Morgan, president of Caribbean American Diaspora, president of Women of Culture Incorporated, and real estate broker and life coach at Inner Vibes Consultant. We are actually streaming live on Caribbean Rhythms Radio Network, but we were supposed to be streaming live on Caribbean American Diaspora. So we are going to be sharing to those platforms. So while I do that, I'm going to just take the time and we're going to jump right on because we're a few minutes behind. And we're going to talk about sickle cell disease, sickle cell traits, everything you know. Every year we talk about sickle cell and it's like we learn something else. We learn something new, something that we can take back home to our loved ones or, friends, etc. So we're blessed to have amazing experts and individuals and advocates to come on and share this information with us. So without further ado, let me introduce you to Ms. Carla Lewis, who is the CEO and founder of Kids Conquering Sickle Cell Disease. Welcome, Ms. Carla.
Welcome. Thank you for having me. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you. We are waiting for Dr. Bavon Debreo. We're waiting for Lewis Witter. But in the meantime, we're going to get started, right? Because everybody is, it's nothing like evening time. There's schedules, there's bedtime, there's back time, there's dinner. So we got to move forward. So Carla, I'm not sure. Tell us a little bit about who you are, your organization, and then you can jump right into if you're able to share.
Yes. Hello, everyone. Like again, I said, I'm Carla Lewis. I am a mom of a sickle cell warrior. I'm the founder of Kids Conquering Sickle Cell Disease Foundation based in Orlando, Florida. We educate and focus on education, advocacy, and outreach. Our focus also has been on young adults living with sickle cell, and our organization focuses on those living with sickle cell and those other associated disorders, blood disorders. So I'm happy to be here tonight. I am going to bring some education about sickle cell tonight. So I'm just going to start with that, Zana. So we won't be long because education go take a view of sickle cell. So I'm going to try to share my screen. Give me a moment.
While we're waiting for you, Carla, we can jump in and say hello from.
No, when you see.
What was that, Carla? We're not seeing you yet.
Are you able to see it?
No, we're just still seeing you. It doesn't even show us yet that you're trying to share a screen or anything like that yet. There you go.
There it goes. It's starting up now.
Yes.
Okay, you haven't seen it yet?
Actually, it was on and then it went off. It did say you were starting to share, and we did see it.
Yep.
So try that again.
Okay. Technology, right?
All right. Especially when you're live, that's how it does.
Yeah. I am. Okay, I'm going to be gentle with this today.
There, we're seeing Sharon's
Yeah,
screen.
it's sharing the screen. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
It just says that you have started screen sharing. But that's where it is. It's blocked.
There it goes. I can
There you go.
Okay, great. Let me put in review mode now. Okay, strength beyond the pain, sickle cell. I'm just going to give a brief overview. So September is Sickle Cell Awareness Month. So one of the important things is for everyone to get tested to know their status. Sickle cell disease is a genetic hemoglobin disorder. It's abnormal red blood cells causing blockage, resulting in pain and complications. Parents with the sickle cell trait can pass on the abnormal gene to their child. So I will go in a little bit further about that. The impact of sickle cell. About 1,000 babies are born with sickle cell disease each year, according to the Sickle Cell Association and also the CDC. There's about 70,000 to 100,000 living with sickle cell. Those numbers are a little off because over the years, they haven't collected data. So those numbers are really off. We know in reality that there's over 100,000 living in the United States living with sickle cell disease, and about 3 million, probably even more than that, 3 million living with the sickle cell trait. About 1 in every 16,300 Hispanic babies are born with sickle cell disease. In Florida, we know we have a prevalent Hispanic community, so it's very important for each and every one to know their status and do get tested. It's important. One of the things I mentioned was getting tested, but one of the tests I need to call out to you, the test is called electrophoresis test. So if you need information about that, you can also visit our website, and that information will be given to you at the end of this presentation. Sickle cell is an inherited blood disorder of the red blood cells, like I explained, and it has a sickled shape. You can look at the picture, and it shows a shape of a moon. You can kind of see. So that a normal shape is more so like a sickle shape. The cells are more hard and firm, where normal cells are soft and round and flexible. Sickle cells live about 10 to 15 days instead of 180 days, which results in anemia. And if you look at the picture, you can also see the complication that the sickle cells are having passing through the veins. And the normal cells are flowing easily through the passageway. As I said, the normal cells are round, they're oxygenated, and they are full of pretty much a nice, soft texture. So it makes it very easy, whereas the other sickle cells are very firm and hard, making it more difficult. Sickle cell trait versus the disease. So sickle cell trait, as I mentioned, one person will have one normal gene and then one abnormal gene. So if you look at this diagram, there's two parents, and the mom will represent the unshaded part as having the normal cell, and then the colored part having a sickle cell, and same thing as the dad. Typically, the health consequences, there's typically no symptoms, rarely experience a pain crisis. It is not abnormal for them to experience a pain crisis because they do carry some sickle cells as well as normal cells. But the higher percentage with those with the trait have more normal cells than sickled cells. So they also, overexertion can be a problem, causing more sickling and causing more complications. And sometimes as studies have shown actually, that athletes and those that have participated in sports that have been overexerted and sometimes undiagnosed with sickle cell trait, they have experienced overexertion and cell sickling and have unfortunately some succumb to death, where they have been able to research more and understand more about sickle cell trait and its impact. So we understand that sickle cell trait is associated with some complications. That's why it's very important to know your status. And if you look at the diagram that's shown here, with one parent giving one abnormal gene and then one normal gene, that child will have sickle cell trait. That's the two children in the middle. With both parents given two normal genes, which is the boy at the end, the beginning, sorry, he will have no disorder. And then whereas two parents are given two abnormal genes, those with two having sickle cell trait, the outcome could be sickle cell disease. And that's a 25% chance of having sickle cell disease if both parents have the sickle cell trait. That's why it's also important to know your status. Renal medullary carcinoma, which is known as RMC, is also a rare kidney cancer associated with sickle cell trait. There are more studies being known about this disorder, and if caught more early, it's a very aggressive cancer. So being diagnosed early has more benefits, having to have treatment, but it's a very aggressive cancer. So it's very important for those that have the trait to also be screened and have follow-up care on a regular with their doctors. And because this particular cancer rarely shows any signs, it's very important that they do get screened beforehand, asking a doctor to take preliminary tests in order for them to understand more about what may be impacting their health, and then also seeing specialists if they notice anything abnormal. Sickle cell complications. Now we're talking back to sickle cell disease. Sickle cell disease have many complications that could be associated. So we talk about anemia when we talked about the blood cells being having less oxygenated cells. And when we think about red blood cells, they carry oxygen to all parts of the body. So if you think of having less cells and then cells being trapped pretty much in order to transport that oxygen, complications do arise. Mild to severe pain, stroke, common in children, blindness, it does affect the eye. So vision does affect the vision. So it's very important to have, really, we think about comprehensive care when we talk about sickle cell disease. That's seeing multiple specialists in order to be screened and for follow-up care as children are growing. So all of their organs can be monitored. Gallstones, also an impact. Infections, definitely high risk to infections because infecting the immune system is different. Acute chest syndrome, which is pretty much affecting the lungs. And acute chest syndrome is also have been related to pneumonia, and that's a very serious effect impacting those living with sickle cell disease. It needs to be treated quickly, and because that is one of the causes of death also, acute chest syndrome. Organ damage. Sickle cell is known to cause slow organ damage. Even though signs and symptoms may not be present, slow organ damage is occurring because cells are having trouble passing oxygen to the organs. Pulmonary hypertension, skin ulcers, splenetic crisis, that's infecting the spleen, Priapism in males is also known to happen sometimes in females, but males are experiencing priapism, which is an erection, an erection that occurs, unfulfilled erection that occurs within males. And then other serious complications and sometimes shortened lifespan is also known to be related to sickle cell complications. So if you look at this lady at the diagram showing really from head to toe, pretty much infecting each and every organ in the body, also affecting the bones. So when we think about the bones, because blood has to travel, right? And so circulation, so also affecting bones. And then at the joints, a lot of times when the pain occurs, it's affecting at the joints also. There is no universal cure for sickle cell. Studies show a positive progressions with bone marrow transplants, but there are associated risks. Also, bone marrow transplant is not open to everyone. I know sometimes during a part of the year, I used to see some kind of email or something going around saying bone marrow transplant, encouraging warriors that, oh, wow, this is the cure. It is not a universal cure. It is not provided for everyone. It's not open for everyone. There are many types of different sickle cell disorders. We call it genotypes. So there's different genotypes of sickle cell, and some have, I want to say, less complications than others. And some, even though they may have complications, they're not open to having a transplant. And that means they're not being offered to fall in the criteria to be offered a transplant. So it's not offered to everyone. Studies have shown progressive treatment with gene therapy, which is offered to some warriors meeting requirements in a clinical trial. I'll mention that again. Gene therapy is a clinical trial, which means that those that are offered this kind of progressive therapy, they have to meet the recommendations to that trial. So there's an age limit. Clinical trials are now going to be, actually submitted to be FDA approved, which 2 of them have been submitted so far. We'll see if that will be FDA approved. Then we'll have, probably be a little bit more wider range of requirements, and of course different states. It's going to be a slow progression, and it's not going to be cheap. Then the cost will be another thing. And then we have to understand, even with bone marrow transplants, cost effective also. So insurance covering that. There are only 4 FDA approved medications to help to decrease the sickling of cells. And that, again, of course, is not open to everyone. And just like a Tylenol or Motrin doesn't meet everyone's needs, just like these medications do not meet everyone's need. So we need more medications that will be FDA approved, so there are more resources in order for others to have opportunities for treatments. Some have tried different therapy services and they just don't work. Medications, they just don't work for them. And then some have reactions. So we know that definitely sickle cell has had one FDA medication on the market for over 20 years, which is hydroxyurea, which is a chemotherapy medication that was a repurposed drug for sickle cell. And now we have more, thank goodness that we do have more options of treatment. So we definitely know that progression is happening as far as having more medications available, and we still need more. So there's more work to do as far as advocacy for more medications and treatment for sickle cell. Studies show lifespan to 40 years old, but we have been seeing patients living on to the golden years, which is nice, 70s and 80s. So that is nice to see in our community, even though studies have shown the lifespan until 40 years old. Despite challenges, there are patients living successful lives. I am showing off my golden warrior that's in this community. Her name is Carla. She's 59 years old and proud. Some patients live rich, fulfilling lives as warriors, and they advocate their fortitude and compassion and willpower. And have strength. This is such an encouragement to our community of warriors and young warriors that are coming up, and of course, caregivers in the community, and our caregivers that are professionals in the community that are taking care of them.
Yeah.
Who does sickle cell affect? It affects millions of people in the world. The map shows where these areas are affected. So sickle cell anemia is more common in certain groups, including people of African descendants, including African Americans. Among 1 in 12 carriers of the sickle cell gene. Hispanic Americans from Central and South America, descendants of the Middle East, Asia, we know Caribbean. So sickle cell does affect those across worldwide. Every hospital discharge is like taking home a new baby. As a mother, I appreciate a team of care providers at Nemours and now John Hopkins, because I know they care and value us. This is my son, Shamar, when he came out, but was actually being discharged from the hospital for one of the, I would say, one of the most hardest visits that we experience. And I used to cry when I see this picture, but now I can just smile because this was one of the times he was hospitalized that he fought for his life. And we wouldn't dare know that he would have been in that situation at the age of 8 at the time, and having a aplastic crisis where his red blood cells shut down and stop making cells completely. So they had to trick the body pretty much, and his team worked together. He had a few transfusions and was in a hospital and prayers, I'm telling you, prayers activated God's miracle for him, and he made it through. So I'm thankful for God for blessing me with my son and helping him through this trying time. We know that warriors go through many trying times. My son is just one story, but it is a blessing for each and every warrior to walk out the hospital, especially when there are frequent visits. My son Shamar has at least over 50 visits to the hospital from the time of birth. So whether it's either ER care to get treatment or being an inpatient, multiple visits. He knows the hospital in and out. Now he's 21 years old, and he was blessed to actually receive a bone marrow transplant, and his brother was his donor. He is 6 months as a BMT, which a bone marrow transplant warrior, and he's still getting monitored treatments from his treatment team at John Hopkins Hospital out in St. Petersburg. And he continued his victory as a warrior with sickle cell disease, and now a bone marrow transplant warrior. Wow. So we're thankful that he was actually a candidate, and his brother, younger brother, was a 100% match, which he was able to qualify to get a bone marrow transplant. And that's only 25% of individuals have that opportunity to have a 100% matched siblings.
Amazing. Oh,
so my information, it says Kids Conquering Sickle Cell Disease Foundation, and this is one of my emails that you can. And you can contact me at clewis@kidsconqueringscd.org. And I'm always, glad to answer questions and reach out to those that definitely have questions about sickle cell or needing some resources. It's Sickle Cell Awareness Month. So what can you do? You can join blood drives and donate blood. That is one thing that you can do. Also, get tested. Get tested. That test I told you to ask for, the electrophoresis test, you can ask your doctor, what test can you take so I can know my sickle cell status or hemoglobin status, because there are many hemoglobin disorders and it doesn't show from a sign, right? They actually have to test your blood in order to see. So I thank you. I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Yes.
That was
Thank you so
amazing.
much.
That was amazing.
Carla, if you can hang out, if just for a little bit.
I am going to be
Okay, because we want to get to Shaquansia, because I want to
here.
we want to definitely find out. Okay, so like in Carla's case, I'm assuming you have the trait but not the diseases. How that work? Because then your son.
Yes. So it just so happens that myself and my husband had the traits and passed down the trait to both passed normal gene to my son. But we have two different traits. So I have the sickle trait and my husband have a different trait, which is another genotype, which is he has the thalassemia trait. So there's still two abnormal traits coming together. So my son just happens to have sickle beta thalassemia, which is still in that sickle family as abnormal genes. So he just so happened to have, the sickle cell disease. But remember, I told you that there are many genotypes of sickle cell disease. There's C, you can have C, you can have SC, you can have S beta thal 0, yes, O, and
Arab.
yep, there's many of them. So there's beta thal 0, beta thal plus, sickle beta thal plus. So there are many different genotypes. There's also I got to know a different one that's actually in Jamaica, West Indies, that they did some research that in particular area they named another one that's now being known of. So, it's good to know your genotype in order for you to know your status, so you can make informed decisions if you're family planning and just know more about your health. And like I said, there's other things associated with the trait that we need to know of. So when my children go for sports now, I let them know my children have the trait. My son loves basketball. When he plays basketball, you have to take water breaks. He likes to run track. He was running track at one point, and I tell him he has to take water breaks. Overexertion is a thing that can cause some complications. So I educate them also, as also making their the teachers and staff be aware, so they can take necessary precautions also.
I like that. Making the staff, making everyone, your village, aware. So we're gonna come back. Shaquansia, tell us a little bit about you. Welcome, welcome. I know you've got crunch time also. Tell us a little bit about you and your situation.
Okay, my name is Shaquansia Love. I have sickle cell anemia. My genotype is SS. I'm 37. I've been living with this crazy disease for years. All my life, born, diagnosed at the age of 4, had many hospital stays, many surgeries. It's funny because I mentioned the gene therapy treatment to my doctor, Carla, about 2 years ago, and he was like, he didn't feel comfortable with recommending me because he felt like there's not enough clinical trials yet to offer that opportunity to me, because I stored my daughter's stem cells so I could consider being cured.
Nice.
And he just said to give it a little while, don't do it right now because he doesn't feel safe with the clinical trials. So my whole thing is, if I could never, have that opportunity, that at least I maintain my health the best that I can so that I can be the mother I need to be to my children. All my kids do have the trait, unfortunately. My husband doesn't have the trait at all. It's weird how it works. My husband has no trait. I just had a whole disease and my kids ended up with the trait. And according to the doctor, because my genotype is so strong and my levels were so high, anytime I have a kid, they will carry the trait. So it's crazy how you try to avoid something and still end up, So I got to educate my kids too on the traits. And like Miss Carla said earlier, I've experienced blood transfusions, many hospital stays, over 100 hospital stays. I've had over 8 surgeries. Never experienced a
Wow.
stroke or anything like that. And I depend on faith to thrive and survive. I depend on my faith in God, and I take good care of myself. And that's pretty much it. I go to the doctor. I do what I need to do so that I can be who I need to be for myself and for other people. So yes.
Wow. So that's interesting. Where you said, Shaquansia, that your husband didn't have any.
Anything, nothing, and I had the whole disease. So because my genotype is high, every child I have will have the trait. All 4 of my kids have the trait.
And you see
And
how
it's
that
crazy.
works, Donna?
Right.
Sorry, you see how that works, Donna? Because her genotype, she has SS. She doesn't have
Yes.
any normal genes to give. So she always will, her 2 genes are abnormal. So she always will give 1 abnormal gene while her husband will give 2. He got one, he has 2 normal genes. He'll always give 1 normal gene. So each of her children will always come out with the trait. So those that do have sickle cell disease, they will also have a child that will come out with the trait. That it just cannot be. That's just how it is because of the phenotype. Also, what's been interesting, because remember I told you that my child just had a bone marrow transplant. So of course, educating my child that now, even though you may live to have the status would be more now sickle cell trait, right? Not sickle cell disease. Once his whole process is complete. Still, his genotype is having 2 abnormal cells.
Yeah.
So he has beta thal and he also has sickle. So even though he now has gone through the bone marrow transplant, that doesn't change his genotype. His blood type was changed. He was born O and now he's going to be A. So his blood type will change because of the donation in the bone marrow of my other son, but the genotype will not change. So his genetic makeup will not change. So he will also have to be cautious to make sure his mate doesn't have the trait if he's thinking about family planning.
Right.
And what are those options if the other mate does have the trait? What are the family planning options? But these are the things that are helping to educate them on what the status is and knowing your genotype, why that's so important. Not that it may change that you won't have a child person that you marry, but make it an informed decision on the family planning and life goals, because it does affect your life. Even as a caregiver, it affected, my job, my work schedule. Daphne had a job with FMLA. Thank God that my child did not have his sickle cell did not get aggressive until he was 12. So I was able to work. Had no problems, when his disorder started to get more aggressive, I had to think about working because he became a hospital homebound student. He couldn't go to school with his peers for 2 years because he was in and out the hospital until new treatments came into play. Thank God. We tried different things, but until new treatments came in and we tried other treatments, that was what helped him to be able to manage his disorder better. We was very cautious the way we eat. We make our foods. The food is a big thing. So we never was one that really eat out. Being from the Caribbean, you cook your food, and a lot of vegetables, different things. So we were cautious of how his diet. Everyone in the family had the particular diet in order to, maintain healthy, but particularly for him, we avoided certain food that would, cause him to possibly have a crisis, those kind of things. But it was very, very important for us to look at other options of treatment, see how it's impacting others, and definitely was scared. It's a little scary to try new treatments also that's coming out on the market. But once we knew that something had to give, because he couldn't keep going in and out the hospital. And for a child to look at me as a mom, he said, "Mom, I want to be going to school like my siblings." That took my heart when he came to me and told me that. And I was like, "But I'm here with you." And he was like, "It is not the
Ain't the
same." And he
same.
was right. It's not, he was right. It's not the same. And he was one of the happiest children to go back to school with his peers. And thank God, his health improved at that time also. So knowing your options and knowing what it may take to raise a child with sickle cell definitely affects your income. It affects relationships. No one likes to talk about
Yes,
that.
it do. It do.
It affects your relationship as a patient. It affects your relationship as the caregiver. Because I can't tell how many times I'm like looking at my husband like, "You're not going to the hospital? Like what?" Okay, so keeping it real, right? But
Right.
as a mom, you're
Right.
gonna pick up the string and go. And we would have to tag team sometimes. I spend the night, he spends the night with him, and we would team as a team and have to talk about how we're gonna maintain him. So there's a lot to have to manage. And then mental, no one talks about that. The mental stress
Mental
that also
balance. Yeah.
impacts patients and impacts caregivers. So mental health therapy
Feeling
is
like
very
a burden.
important.
Is there a support group? Because you guys are saying there's so much on so many different levels. Are you guys a part of a support group?
Yeah, we have sickle
Yes.
cell groups on Facebook. Go ahead, Miss Carla. Tell her the groups.
Yeah, so there are support groups, whether online and even in the community. So for Kids Conquering Sickle Cell, we do events that patients can actually do some networking, be able to talk to each other. Also, we give information out for patients to understand that it's okay to seek therapy. See a therapist. It's okay for them to see a therapist. Okay for parents to see therapists because it's important. So we do have support groups, whether online, because there are many online sickle cell support groups, thank goodness, where parents share their experiences, patients share their experiences, but we also do a lot of, we do network in-person groups. One of our activities, we actually have it on September 30th, and it's focused on family fun and education. So we're having that at Dave and Buster's on the 30th of this month. And it's always like a family reunion. So those that come out, we have an education piece, and we also have family time where families are going to get game cards and be able to play games and be able to have some family time, not have to think about the hospital or tests or anything. Just have a nice social time, be able to get some resources and educational information, and also network with others that are going through the same experience. So yes, support is very important.
Juan, as we wrap up the last 10 minutes or so, tell us about you've got 3 or 4 children.
I got 4 babies, 3 girls, 1 boy. I have a 14-year-old, 9-year-old, 7-year-old, and a 4-year-old. And like I said, they're all pretty much, they dance, so they know to drink your water and all that. They are active. I want them to be active. I don't want them to live a restricted life. I wasn't raised that way, so I'm not gonna raise them that way. So they dance, go to school, all that good stuff. And I try, I guess my thing with me, I don't want to get sick, but I try not to get sick so they can understand that regardless of what obstacles you go through, you can push through. Even with me recently being sick and telling myself, you're not going to the hospital. You're not going to go to the hospital. You're going to beat this at home. So I was so proud. Even my daughter the other day, she was like, Mom, you really didn't go to the hospital. You beat at home. I'm so proud of you. And it warmed my heart because I know it bothers them so bad when I get admitted. They call me, they'll text me, they'll try to get to the hospital. And then y'all know with COVID still around, I don't really like my children to come to the hospital. So it's just, they were like, please, Mom, if you could beat it at home, we'll help. And my baby helped me get through it. My aunt came by and we got through it. We got through it. So I try to show them that every time I get sick, it doesn't have to be a hospitalization. Obviously, if it's serious, I'm gonna go. But if it's something that I could try to beat at home, I try to beat at home to show them that through anything they go through, if mommy can fight and beat it, you can too. So yes.
You guys
And my bad.
mentioned food. Is there any particular anything that triggers anything or not really?
I know when I don't have my gallbladder anymore, but I know when I had it, anytime I eat any kind of greasy stuff, it'll be like I have heartburn plus a sickle cell crisis. So I feel like from the bottom of my stomach through my throat, it felt like I was dealing with not just the heartburn, but like sharp stabbing pains from sickling. So fried foods, junk food and stuff like that. So especially when I was just recently sick, I literally, it was almost like I fasted was on nothing but fruit and water. And then with me, I can't do anything iron, how they call it, iron enriched right now because I have too much iron in my body. So remember we talked about that on the
Yes.
live with Ted. So I had too much iron in my body. So right now I can't do too much greenery or anything iron enriched because if I do, I can face, my kidneys shutting down and we don't want that. So I try to, fruit, water, definitely push my water, fruit with electrolytes in it. Try to bake more, try to not eat red meat. So I don't eat a lot of ground beef. I don't eat pork at all. Just a lot of things I cut out my diet. So like Miss Carla said, I'm not in and out of the hospital because of a bad diet. So I've changed my diet a lot. And the only meat I really eat is chicken and shrimp. That's it. I really don't eat too much meat. Right. And then, eat vegetables that I can eat. But like she said, whatever you put into your body, it can affect and cause a crisis. And the crisis could last anywhere from a couple of days to months. You can be in the hospital for months dealing with unbearable pain. So, and nothing touches it. Like it literally like has to dissipate on its own. You can get all the IV medication and it still don't help until your body decides it's gonna slow, the crisis to go away on its own. So yeah, something serious.
Let's check and see if there's any questions. While I'm doing that, Kwanzaa, you mentioned you had too much iron. What, just briefly tell us what happened.
So, I'm not gonna blame my people because they didn't know any better. My mom, like I told you, my mom really wasn't in the picture. So my aunt and my grandmother raised me. So rightfully so, we should receive blood from our race. Not trying to sound racist. Well, because I was receiving so much blood from so many different ethnicities, it worked against my body. So because of that, and it was sometimes where it was so detrimental that I had to get blood, my iron in my body is not at, I think you're supposed to average between 103 and like 125. Miss Carla, do you know the number? It's somewhere up in there, but mine was just in the 2000s a year ago. 2000.
Wow.
So my doctor was like, no blood unless it's ICU related, or that you can't get any more blood. He said, we'll have to try whatever we can to get your pain down, but no blood unless your hemoglobin is like that. 5 and 3 is dangerous. Wow. He said, your hemoglobin needs to be so low that we ain't got no choice but to give it to you. He said, but when you're at, because my average is about an 8, 9. He said, as long as you're hovering in there, we're good. But he said, we got to get the iron out your body. So they had me on oh my God, I'm on so many different prescriptions. I can't think of it right now. XJ, that's what I'm on. XJ. So I had to take, look, because I be trying not to confuse them. It's so many on XJ. And I have to mix it in a cup and then I drink it. And it's supposed to rid the iron out of my body. But something my doctor has been researching that when we're in a pain crisis or we're having any kind of infection, your iron number is also falsely elevated. So when we're checking my iron level, I have to make sure I'm not in pain or not dealing with any kind of infection, because he said I can see your levels dropping, but then if you come here not feeling good, your numbers jump right back up. So studies show that if you're in crisis or you're sick, your iron level can be falsely elevated with sickle cell. So it's just crazy, man, because he was like, I'm gonna just be honest with you. He finally had to talk. He said, because you've received so much blood from so many different races, your body gets to the point it starts rejecting it because it cannot identify with yours anymore because you've gotten so much from other people. So that's why the body starts rejecting and your kidneys and your liver starts to fail. So yeah, the last time we checked my iron, I think it was like at 1200. So it's coming down, but it's doing it so slow. It's taking forever. So I definitely watch my diet with, like, I love collard greens and stuff like that, but I have to watch and kale and spinach. I just had spinach like 3 days in a row last week. I have to watch that because that stuff had iron in it. I mean, and iron in it, high levels of iron. So
Right.
yeah, it's crazy, man. Over time, it's like I don't want to call myself a guinea pig, but sometimes I be feeling like I'm a guinea pig at my age, figuring out certain things because they may not have known until something happened to you, and then now they're adding this to the information. You know what I'm saying? Because I was like, I never in a million years thought me having what did I have? What did I have the last time I went to the doctor? I had a urinary tract infection. So that's when I had my iron level a little bit more elevated than normal. The minute I got the antibiotics and we checked again, it dropped some. So that's when we learned it. So I told my doctor, I feel like I'm a guinea pig. he, he was like, I know. He said, I know, but it's just amazing. We're still researching sickle cell, learning sickle cell. He's excited, with the new drugs that's, coming or whatever.
The
And I've been
attention.
with my doctor.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Yeah.
So it's just I try not to take what I don't need as far as medication because all medications have side effects. But for the most part, if I need something, I'm gonna take it. Whatever's gonna keep me on this side of the earth, I'm gonna take it. So yeah.
Yeah. Kwanzaa, it's so good to see your spirit, no matter
Thank you.
you too,
It's
Carla,
God.
and you're dealing and I guess that's, you guys
Yeah.
have that despite every single day. Because this is a everyday. This is a
It's an
every
everyday
day.
journey.
This is not you're definitely warriors. You're not even
Yes.
survivors because you're not done and over it. Um, but
Right.
we are glad to see that the attention that's being brought, the resource,
Yes.
um, so but it's because of people like you and the work that you guys are doing and being advocates in the community. So you're bringing more attention and bringing more
Yes.
attention and forcing communities to step up and then you guys turn around and you teach us about all the trials and the pain that you're experiencing, and not just as a family. So
Right.
that's on a whole
Because it's
nother
like your
level.
family go through it with you. It's
Yeah.
not just me, but my
So
kids, my
true.
husband, Miss Carla, no, your whole family suffer. It's not even the caregivers, like she said, missing work. Just it's a lot. And me being a patient, I would literally wait until I'm deadly sick because I don't want to feel like a burden. Every time I got sick, and my aunt was like, "Don't ever feel like that. You tell us when you're sick so we can do preventive measures. Don't ever feel like you're a burden on us. You're not."
Right.
Because when I had a negative mindset and would be wishing I would die, because I'm like, I'm literally burdening all my family with this condition. I mean, I didn't ask for
Um,
this, but I be feeling like a burden.
yeah.
And God shifted my mindset and was like, it's not a burden. It has purpose. This pain has purpose. So that's when I shifted my mindset and said, okay, I, advocacy, telling my story, like Miss Carla being on my lives, and it's pain behind it. It's just like when a woman delivers a baby. We
Mm.
be uncomfortable, go through all that, and at the end you got the baby. And with me, my testimony is the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah.
So as long as I'm able to tell people, in spite of what you're dealing with, because everybody got something they deal with,
Oh yeah.
you can keep thriving and surviving. So
Yeah.
yes, ma'am.
I know we've got a couple guests on live with us on Zoom. I don't know if anyone has a question. Let me know. Come on real quick so we can wrap up. Carla and Shaquanza have munchkins and family to go home and cook dinner. I know Dr. Bavon, I'm not sure if you're available. I see Zach, Homaida. if anyone has any questions. If
One
not,
thing
mhm,
Shaquansia said that I want to touch on real quick, she mentioned just having that family support. And a lot of warriors, when they reach from young adults transitioning, so from childhood, pediatric care to young adult, they're expected to pretty much know their bodies and know how to navigate. When it's
Right.
not natural like that, they have to be taught. They still need the support, and sometimes that support is neglected, and sometimes it's naturally because they're not able to go out to different functions or had to cancel different functions because of managing their illness. Therefore, you have less community involvement, less friends now. So the important thing is to know that even though those warriors may feel alone, such as those support groups, such organizations. It doesn't even have to be focused only on sickle cell. There are organizations that focus on blood disorders. There's organizations such as those that focus on mental health. You can reach out to those resources that are there that are able to support you through this journey. So I just want to let people know they're not alone, even though we are talking about family, we're talking about community, but I want you to know you do have a village too, and your village is these resources. And the simple thing that Donna is doing in order to reach out and provide education and provide resources to the community just by this great Zoom conference,
Right.
being able to live to be able to share. This is another resource. So definitely tap in.
Yes, it is. I'm grateful for it. So
thank
grateful for you,
you.
Miss Donna.
And to on that, because this Zoom, we are tapped in not just here in the US, we are tapped in the Caribbean, we're tapped in Africa, and I've personally seen movies, and I think there's more awareness that's needed all in those countries too, because I've seen some
Yes,
movies
yes.
recently where they're talking about sickle cell in some parts of Africa, and people are still looking at it as something like witchcraft that happened. They're
Yes.
not understanding because child after child, the woman, these kids come out sick. So they're looking at it as something is wrong, or the woman did something, and it's highlighting, but I look at it and I'm like, wow, look at how this
Yeah.
is being played out. So anything that we can do, Carla, because like I said, we've got, ambassadors, global ambassadors in Tanzania, Uganda, Cameroon, Jamaica, Haiti, Trinidad, Bahamas, Bermuda, Guyana. So let's plan a global sickle cell, because you ladies have a lot of information, but there's a lot of women and communities that don't. And so as we were talking about it just came to me that you guys can probably do a global with the outreach that I have, and to kind of tap in and support each other globally.
Definitely.
I would love
Thank you.
I would love
Hamida, I think, has a question.
I'm still working, so I'll be quick.
Sorry.
I want to say I was so curious to be on this because I have friends who talk about it. And I was, to be honest with you ladies, I was a bit embarrassed to ask them about some of the situations when they talk about, when I say embarrassed, I'm not part of it in that reality of the world, but at the same time, hearing them talk about their situations and challenges, and I never realized it was such a fragile situation. It is what you have just said to me. It's a whole education process, and I will be a little bit more, how shall I say, I'm not want to use the word sympathetic, but understand what they are going through. And it gives me a better picture of just having been on this Zoom and you all sharing. It's really a great resource for me now to be empathetic with the families and the kids and everything else. So thank you so much for that. I will be able to do a lot more reading. And you have a great and positive attitude, and that's what makes the difference.
Yes,
It does.
you do.
It does.
Thank you so
So thank
much.
you for sharing. Thank you.
Thank you, thank
Mhm.
you. And this is what outreach is all about, because just the information that you guys showed in the what you share, the PowerPoint, and you see how the cells sickle and you, because sometimes we may think that person's just complaining. Oh, she's complaining again.
Right, Miss Donna.
But look at what you broke down and how you shared, and yeah, you have to look at it. So again, thank you, thank you, thank you for sharing this information. Because I know there's some people right now suffering in silence because nobody understands them.
Right.
Yes.
So thank you for the work that you continue to do. I love seeing the smiles. Let us know, you know, whenever you guys want to talk. We don't have to wait a whole year to talk about this.
Right.
Appreciate you, appreciate your work. So with that, it is 8 p.m. Thank you, ladies.
Definitely.
Hello,
Thank you.
Lois Witter with CRR, Caribbean Rhythms Radio Network, is listening somewhere. It's being streamed anyways on that. Thank you all for Caribbean American Diaspora. Next Wednesday, we're going to talk about suicide prevention. This Saturday, we are going to be meeting in Orlando for our Second Chance Resource Fair. So for those individuals that are coming out of or been out of incarceration, whether it's a couple months or a couple years, we will have resources there for career training, skills, transitional housing, just everything that you need when you've been locked away. Now you're back home. And we call it the setup for success, because it takes a village. Just in your situation, it takes a village of people that care to say, hey, I know you made a mistake, but here's some resource that you can turn your life around. And that's what we're all about. So that is being hosted by Women of Culture Incorporated, in partnership with Caribbean American Diaspora and a whole host of Second Chance Central Florida Reentry Network team. So with that, we say God bless you all. Continue the work, continue the love, and we'll talk soon and connect on another level, higher level.
Yes.
God bless.
Thank you.
Yes.
God bless.
God bless you guys.